see that happening with all the choices we have, because there are a lot of things out there calling for our attention. There are a lot of things in this world that call for our attention out there. Not that they're necessarily bad or good in themselves, but they're doing that. And so the question is, really, we need to ask ourselves for our church and for our lives, to whom do I belong? You see, that's what Paul's asking. To whom do you belong? I think that's the question of Corinthians. I think that's the question that Paul is trying to clarify here. To whom do you belong? There's a lot of competition out there. We can belong to our vocation. We can belong to our possessions. We can belong to our status. We can belong to power. We can belong to fame. We can belong to sports. We can belong to television. We can belong to video games. The list goes on and on and on and on. And the problem comes about when something else begins to direct the order of our lives other than Jesus Christ. He needs to be primary in our lives. And when that happens, when Christ is above all these other things become secondary, and the things that can really be detrimental to us can be removed. It puts our lives in perspective. And we begin to look through His eyes and focus on His presence and what He desires for us. But in order to get back to that beat, in order to get back to that rhythm of Christ in our lives, the difficult part is we have to empty ourselves. We have to empty ourselves. Because you see, our call is to respond to Christ, not to human agendas. Joseph Bernardin wrote a book entitled The Gift of Peace, and his design in there was to close the gap between what I am and God wants of me. And this is what he said in this book. He says, I must empty myself and let Jesus come in and take over. I have prayed to understand his agenda for me. It's unsettling to pray to be emptied of self. It seems a challenge almost beyond our reach as humans. But if we try, I have learned God does most of the work. I must simply let myself go in love and trust of the Lord. It's kind of hard to put our personal agendas aside and to do these things, because then we begin to ask questions and we begin to wonder, what is God going to ask of us? What is God going to ask of me? What is God going to ask of me? He's going to ask me to reach a higher level of morality? Is He going to ask me to be more generous in my giving? More willing to forgive? Is He going to ask me to be a part of or maybe lead a small group ministry? Is He going to ask me to be a part of or help initiate a mission or ministry beyond a local church into our community to reach out in His presence? These things can be a little difficult for us, no doubt about it. But if being Christian is primary in our lives, if being God's people and being His person is primary in our lives for our identity, we'll find a way to follow this Jesus and to allow Him to lay down the drumbeat of our lives, to lay down the rhythm of our lives and how we live those lives. And it's a rhythm that calls us simply to be faithful. We look through Scripture, the melody that we see through the pages of Scripture, it's not perfection. It's not success. It's not prosperity. But God looks for people who are faithful to Him. People who are faithful and available. Faithful and available. That's what He looks for. We're imperfect. We make mistakes. We don't always do the right things. But God works through that and around that and in us. And there's a part of us, in our heads, we know that we're called to trust Christ, to lean on Him, to walk with Him in even an uncertain future. But it's another thing when they put that into practice, because there's another part of us that wants to do it all ourselves. We just want to do it all ourselves. But God is the one who really perfects us. He's the one who is the rhythm of our lives, and He just asks us to be faithful and to be available. And it doesn't have to be difficult. Sometimes we think it has to be some of the really difficult stuff. I love the story I came across about a family that just moved into a community, new homeowner. Moved in, starts mowing his grass, his lawnmower He spent a couple hours trying to get that thing to work. Working on it, thought it had his tools out there, just couldn't get it to work right. His neighbor saw what was happening, came over with a handful of tools. He said, "Can I give you some help?" And this new fellow in town said, "Sure, I'd love a little help here." Well, he started to work on it. About 20 minutes, this neighbor of his had this thing working perfectly. Just great. About 20 minutes. The new fellow there, the neighbor said, "Wow." He said, "Well, thanks. I really appreciate that." He said, "Tell me, what do you make with such fine tools?" And he looked at him and just simply said, "Well, mostly I make friends, and I'm available anytime." Even the simple stuff is important. But it's following the real head of the church, and that's Christ. It's allowing him to be the rhythm of our lives, even against all the other stuff. Not they're not important, but he becomes number one on the charts in our lives and in our hearts. And when that happens, it makes a difference. It makes a difference. And each of us has to choose whether we're shaped by our culture or to follow our calling. That's a choice we all make, whether we want to make it or not. We make it by the decisions we make, the things we do, who we are, and what we say. That decision, are we shaped to use our life just to go on working, or to bear witness through our lives to others and who we are and whose we are? The call of Christ, it's always been to show the world that we are God's people. That's his call to you and to me. To show the world that we're his people. That he's the rhythm of our lives. In all that we say and all that we do, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, wherever we may be. So that's the question Paul asks us today. Who's at the top of the charts for you? Who's at the top of the charts? And if it's Jesus Christ, your life is going to be singing a song and setting a rhythm that the church, our community, and the world needs to hear. Let us pray. Gracious God, we thank you this day for your love and for your grace, and we thank you for this time as we offer ourselves to you. We ask that in such a diverse world, which isn't all bad, that we understand our priorities, and we know where you stand in our lives, and the choices that we make, and how we live our lives, and what we say, how we act, and our perspective of life itself. We come here now, and we simply